Howdy, this is Say to the Piper Man. I want you to listen to this.
Be read into it in a way that is very, very wrong. In fact, let me just quote what Justice Alito said in the ruling. In Justice Alito's own words, Roe was egregiously wrong from the start. Its reasoning was exceptionally weak, and the decision has had damaging consequences. And far from bringing about a national settlement of the abortion issue, Roe and Casey have inflamed debate and deepened division. It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. In other words, what happened now in the court decision did not ban abortion throughout America. It said, let the people decide by voting in each state, not specifically voting for Roe or against Roe, voting for abortion or against abortion, but voting for elected officials who will then say, okay, based on you putting us in power, we are going to pass.
Okay. That's from a YouTube site called Ask Dr. Brown. This is Say to the Piper Man, Piper the Sailor Man, going to give a small analysis or editorial or my personal opinion from what I researched and what I've read. And for most of my life, I lived on that ghastly law that got passed, Roe versus Wade. And we know that the feminist movement of 1960s had a great impact not only on social, educational, civil rights, but also on abortion rights. Now, that being said, personally, I take the position I'm pro-life. And the reason why I'm pro-life, for thousands and thousands of years, a couple of millenniums, life in many societies was viewed as sacred. The birth of a child was something that you esteemed, something that was precious. Not only that, the fact that tribal groups sacrificed and prayed when they killed the animal or prey over it, had a great understanding. Native Americans had great understanding that animals were sacred, that the earth is sacred. And many of us have certain religious beliefs, and we view for the most part it was sacred. Even in the early 60s and 70s, there was a magazine called Mother Jones. Even the hippies viewed life as sacred, that we need to conserve life, we need to preserve life. And then when Roe came around, women thought it was a matter of civil rights. I'm not going to argue that. You can argue pro and con of that. But the result of the ruling was that it was unconstitutional. And once the Supreme Court had that view, basically, to me, in my understanding, it was stating that Roe, the first passing of the law, was unconstitutional and basically was a criminal offense. It was murder. I'm not saying it based on what the Supreme Court decision. How I'm taking it is, all this time that abortions were being done was unconstitutional and against the American law system. Now, what is all this going to do? Well, like he said, Dr. Brown said, states will be able to vote. People in different states will be able to vote for or against passing laws. I'm for one, I am more for that than it being a national law, because now you're putting the whole nation under judgment of God. I'm sorry to say that. Always put God in the equation when I think in terms of the covenant that our early forefathers and those of religious persuasion, being it was a Judeo-Christian ethics, moral, biblical basis for the nation as a whole. I'm not talking about racism. I'm not talking about their point of view on this and that. I personally believe that our forefathers view life as sacred. And even in that, there's some controversy because of slavery. But great efforts were made throughout years, decades, centuries to correct that. And for me, that's remarkable that a society that once had the view of slaves being nothing but cattle, to having a deep understanding based on biblical principles that all men are really truly created equal regardless of color of skin. And we've made great strides in racism. We've made great strides in a lot of areas. We have to admit that. I mean, we're not living, black people, minorities, or whatever you want of persuasion, we don't have open slavery like it once was. I haven't seen anybody being sold at a square. Though there could be a form of mental slavery, psychological slavery, technological slavery, but the early form of slavery where someone was taken from their homeland, brought over and sold, they're forced, you basically don't have that. That being said, there's a lot of things for pro-life. Pro-life is positive in my view. It calls us to think. Pro-life is being compassionate. Pro-life is being loving. Pro-life is seeing the world from a very different view than pro-death, euthanasia, killing a child, not giving a baby in the womb an opportunity to live. And so it's a big thing. Is a woman's body just belongs to her? Or if a man inseminates a woman, now you have a foreign object entering a woman with her consent, creating life. Is it then constitute that the man also has a right to that child that's being born? Remember, a woman can't give birth all by herself. So when a man, and she's chosen that man to have a baby, for whatever reason she spreads the legs and she has a child or whatever, for the most part it's consensual. I know they try to make the whole thing about the woman's being raped and this and like that, things that are happening, a father impregnating the daughter, crazy stuff like that happening. But that's not the majority. The majority is two people coming together, either wedlock, out of wedlock, having fun, and, and then by mistake, by accident, having children. In that context, I think it falls now that the people, right? If you don't want to have abortion, you have the responsibility with your body. You're responsible to, and for the longest, women have been irresponsible, in my eyes, in the fact that they're having consensual sex and then they want to have an abortion. So there has to be some kind of law to protect life. We need to protect life. The doctor's oath that to take is protect life. We have to protect life. We can't allow a hostage to die. Somebody that's terrorist taking a hostage to die. I mean, you're all kinds of ramification now. And you notice people getting violent. We're talking about people that are pro-abortion, not getting violent. They're saying, oh, that the right wing has become very radical, very violent, but we see the left wing doing the same thing. And now it's a matter of not obeying the law. It's now usurping the law. Pro or con, for the longest, Roe was in existence, and you didn't have the same type of protest that is going on now. They practically trying to kill a senator, candidate senator. And in a democratic society, right, you have the right to choose your candidate. Your right to change. And now they have to realize that the evangelicals and those that are pro-life have a lot more say, have a lot more power than they thought of. You know, and this is gonna go. This next election is gonna be very, very crucial, and I think it's gonna be very, very violent. I don't have all the answers when it comes to should a woman have an abortion if the child is gonna put her life in danger. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a biologist. I can't say, let the mother die and let the child live, right? The baby live in her body. So there's a lot of things that come into play. But I think overall we should protect life. You know, if the woman is having it natural, there's nothing wrong with her. There's nothing wrong with the baby in her body. You're giving opportunity for next generation. We've had wars and wars and wars and wars and wars. And I don't know what the overall agenda of the social engineers are. And I think it's a selfish act, personally. So a selfish act to kill another living organism. And we have to look at it. Well, I'm looking at it as like, what's worse? Killing or preserving life? That's where I might think. Because once you start killing, it's very hard to come back. Very hard. In a war, once I kill my enemy, he's not gonna return. It's not. Wait a minute. Let me not press the trigger. Let me not kill this guy. Because once you take life, you take life. There's no turning around. But the opposite is true. If you turn around the law and go pro life, you're giving life an opportunity. So for me, it's more of a positive than a negative. Well, that's my say on it. What do you say? What do you think? Post. Let me know what you're thinking. I'm a man. I don't know all the ins and outs. But my instinct has always been to preserve life, even as a medic. That I would even preserve the life of an enemy combatant. Or the say to the piperman, piper the sailorman. Until next time, smoke up. I'm with my Viking and Black Cavendish. See you guys later.